Hey everyone, good evening. Welcome to another episode of You Ask, We Answer. So with me today, actually we have a very special guest, right? So before we start introducing him, all right, this handsome guy right next to me, I just want to give you guys some backdrop, right? Some background about him and why today we will be doing this, what we call the You Ask, We Answer. And if you know, right, this project called the Fiddlewoodz, so I'm sure that you have seen online or perhaps you might have watched one of the YouTube videos in our page. I'm sure that, right, most of us want to know which property, right, is the best, right, when it comes to investment in this time of what we call pandemic. And today, actually, I have invited Paul. He is one of the top, right, transactor, okay, in Fiddlewoodz, which he has created, I would say, a miracle lah, in time like this. Okay, if you don't know him and you want to know more about him, don't worry. Right, later, okay, we'll be doing a round of question and answer. So everyone, right, if you have any questions that you want to ask, or if you want to know more about this project, or let's say you are just looking around in Mont, right, and you are planning to make your next move, right? So my advice to you guys is before you even start, okay, you must watch the video today. All right. So just to give you a teaser of the questions that we are going to go through today, I'm going to put it up on screen so everyone get to see, right, what are the questions we'll be posting, right, on today's session. Right. First of all, definitely we're going to touch on location, right? So Paul, please prepare for that. Right. So as you know, today's topic is about Mont. So we are going to study whether it's Mont there is still any room for appreciation. And secondly, beside location, what are the main selling point of Fiddlewoodz? Right. I'm sure that everyone of who, whichever investment you go into, sure you must know what is the main attraction that can able to pull in demand in future as well. And of course, if you are investor, right, one of the followers asked, what is the best layout, right, in terms of render yield? So we're going to answer that also. And of course, some one of the followers is basically a concern on the competition and what is your view. And last but not least, what's your advice, right, for first-time property buyer who actually asked that, she's concerned about buying at this price range. Okay, so without wasting further time, okay, I'm gonna bring in Paul first. Right, Paul, can you hear me? Can you give a
Yep.
hello?
Hello.
Right. So yeah, maybe you can like give some simple introduction about yourself and what is your goal for today for our
Okay.
followers.
First and foremost, thank you so much for the opportunity and the kind introduction. Uh, I'm Paul. I have transacted probably the highest when it comes to the Fiddlewoodz in the past 6 months itself. Actually, I'm doing all this together with Harris,
Yep.
not to really push you to buy property or push you to buy the Fiddlewoods, but to really help you understand from an investment perspective. So the
Yep.
whole reason why I'm in the real estate industry is not to make money for myself. Of course, you get commission, it's great, but really what I want is to actually help young buyers, investors, and even seasoned investors to really understand on the current real estate situation. And this is, I believe, the Fiddlewoods is one of the better investment option that you have out there in the current period itself. So yeah, really thrilled to be here. So how should we proceed, Harris?
Yep. I think let's go straight to the first topic for today.
Sure.
And yeah, I understand that you have some slides that you have prepared for us, right? So I can't wait to see that. And let's start, right? So for the first question, all right, so everyone is curious to know this, and one of the followers especially mentioned this, lah, right? So as we know,
Mhm.
Mont is considered very matured, and some buyers actually are concerned whether is there any room for appreciation. Okay, so perhaps maybe you can uh, answer this doubt with your powerful research.
Okay, let me just derail a bit and not answer this question directly, right? First and foremost, what you need to understand about the Fiddlewoods is that it is not actually just about Mont, right? We are talking about a new township called 𝐒𝐤𝐚𝐥 Metropolis, right? This is a 65.5 acres new township leasehold by NASA TTDI. But the good thing is that it is actually surrounded by metro township. Like for example, Dutamas, right? You would know about Publica. If you go there on the weekend, you'll be traffic jam. If you go there on Thursday, Friday evening, essentially you are going there to actually hang out with friends, right? That is Publica. If you know about Dutamas, it is also another affluent location. Further south, you have Bukit Damansara itself. Bukit Damansara. Then after that, you have Bukit Tungku, and of course, you have the Mont itself. If you ask me, there is room for Mont to grow. Of course, if you are looking at this particular location, there's not many, I would say not much land to grow, except for Jalan Kiara 3, right? That is where you have the Astria units, you have the Sunway Mont, that will be further out towards the Gambut area already. But if you look at 𝐶𝐤𝐚 Metropolis, this is a whole new township itself. I would say that it has a very different intention compared to the older neighborhood. So when I say the older neighborhood, we are referring to very metro, very affluent, well-known, right? There's no question about that. You talk to the Japanese, you talk to Korean, whenever they come to Malaysia, the first thing that the embassy recommend to them is get yourself an accommodation in Mont, right? That would typically be what they are recommended. So if you look at what the different neighborhood caters to, Mont, if you ask me, has good international schools, right? You have Garden International School, you have Mont International School. That also causes quite a bit of traffic jam, but it also goes to show how essential this international school is, because it really caters to the demographic that we're talking about international, right? I emphasize again, you have Japanese, Korean, and some of you do not know, we are actually seeing an increase in Chinese, Indians, and of course you have the Europeans as well. You have those from Britain and so on and so forth, right? Okay. Shopping malls, no problem.
So which is the best location you think? Let's say I'm someone that came from overseas and he was looking or asking you for advice, right? I want to settle down in KL. Which of these area that you highlighted will normally be their first choice?
Okay, if you're asking the embassy, embassy will typically recommend to you Mont. But naturally, as you do your research, you will definitely want to look for better units to stay in, right? So from what I'm seeing is that there are a lot of trickle effect into Duta Tropica. This is essentially the semi-D and bungalow units. You also have the country heights here, right? And in the future itself, 𝐶𝐤𝐚 Metropolis will be a very interesting place because it caters to international businesses. So if you ask me, expatriates, typically you will want to go towards 𝐶𝐤𝐚 Metropolis because of a few things. The convenience, right? And we are going to have the MRT3 line coming up. This is already proposed, and it is expected to be done in 2028. Okay.
Talking about that, right? So I think some of the followers asked, where will be the future booster in Mont? Because I think the main point here is that people are curious to know what are the future development in this location.
Okay, perhaps I'll go back a little bit. There will be some development happening around here, which is by Sunrise UM. We are seeing quite a few development that's being introduced by Sunrise UM itself. I will tell you that if you ask me, the biggest booster will be in 𝐶𝐤𝐚 Metropolis, which is this area. Let me tell you why I feel that this booster is actually a lot more important based on what we can know at the moment and based on what is to be expected into the future. Just to help you understand a bit better, we have government sector, as I've highlighted earlier. If you look at this U-shaped building, this is the High Court of Kuala Lumpur. So this is where all the high-profile court cases are. We all know about Najib cases, Rosmah cases. This is where it is happening. So what it means for the economy or the local microeconomy is that you're going to have a trickle effect of high-profile lawyers as well as high-profile judges staying within this area, right? From what I'm seeing right now, they are staying either in Dutamas, right, or they are staying in Mont. Because at the moment, this area is not ready yet for residential, and that is why the Fiddlewoodz is in the right place to tackle that. Okay. Other than the High Court, you have MITI and Martrade. These are essential international related businesses. So, I mean, we have all gone through MCO. We all know what is MITI. They are very important for issuing
But
letters.
but I have a question here. I mean, just
Sure.
from one of the followers, they said that during COVID or pandemic, most activities, social gatherings are stopped. So how would that reflect on MyTech when you talk about exhibition center?
Okay, the good thing is that at the moment, it doesn't affect the development,
Mm,
right? Yes, no doubt that MeTech is not in operation, and when it is in operation, it has actually have huge significant influence to the Airbnb market within
yeah,
Mont itself. We are seeing that it is a lot more vibrant. Unfortunately, as it is right now with the pandemic, uh, we'll be honest, it
yep,
is a huge impact. We are seeing auction units. But even then, the auction units that we are seeing is in RT, most of it.
mm,
You have to remember that you have Arcurus units, you have Publica, but we are not seeing a lot of it. So what does it mean to me as an investor? It means that even though the whole global economy is affected by pandemic, we are not seeing auction units here. It means that there is still a certain level of demand, right, that people are able to sustain. And if you ask me, throughout this whole pandemic period, quite
yep,
a number of landlords have survived through because the expatriates are actually moving within
mm,
the Montiara economy, the Montiara environment itself. Right.
yep.
So does
Okay,
that answer the question?
yeah, that sounds very good, right? So I think coming to the next question here, all
Sure.
right. I'm not sure you have fully touched on the points, but then yeah, maybe after this, right, you can touch on one of these question by the followers, like beside locations that what you mentioned about MyTech, the High Court, the MRT, what are the main selling points as well?
Okay. In order to understand that, you have to find a synergy between the location and the development and the pricing, right? This is how I typically view an investment. Location is crucial, but you have to understand the development from
Mm,
a location perspective. Is there synergy between the design of the development, and at the same time you want to buy in at a price that's reasonable, right?
mm,
But in order to understand the synergy of the development of the location, you have to really have a very bird's eye view of KL Metropolis. So let me just briefly run through
yep,
MITI and MITRADE, as I was about to touch earlier on, is very crucial in bringing international businesses into Malaysia, as well as promoting local businesses from Malaysia into the international platform. So it
mm,
plays a huge role in helping the Malaysian economy as well, right? So what does it mean is that you are going to expect a lot of foreign expatriates coming around here in order to get businesses to talk about business, right? And at the same time, you also have MeTech, right? Just to give you a bit of context, MeTech is 3 times the size of KLCC as an exhibition hall.
yep,
Whatever exhibition show you cannot do in KLCC, you do it in MeTech. And how big of an influence, as I've mentioned earlier, whenever MeTech has an exhibition hall, 95% of the Airbnb units within Mont and
mm,
also Publica is booked, right? And they are charging at a premium. Grand Hyatt House, whenever there's an
mm,
exhibition show, it is fully booked. That is
mm.
how big an influence MeTech has on this location itself.
Wow.
So if you're asking me from an investment perspective, right, from an investment perspective, if you are in this vicinity, and just to show you, this is Fiddlewoodz, you are essentially a walking distance away from MeTech. You're also a walking distance away from Met3, which is
Yep,
going to be the largest lifestyle mall within the area, 2
yep,
million square feet. And if you feel that this is not enough, you can essentially walk to the MRT, which is around here, and you are linked to the rest of KL. You want to go to KLCC, it is very convenient. So with all these boosters in mind, it really makes the place really suitable for the Fiddlewoodz. And how does the Fiddlewoodz be a difference? I
mm,
mean, to just go back to your question about location. So I've touched on location. It is going to
yep,
be an international business hub, essentially, right? You're going to see a lot of vibrancy
mm,
in business talks. Even the NASA Tower, a 100-story tower, is
Yep.
going to have MNCs. We are expecting to see a lot of MNCs coming in. MedEd as well, you're going to have a lot of MNCs because
So,
it is
so
grade A corporate house.
all these companies are like what you say is confirmed, or they are going to move in soon.
Okay, with regards to NASA Tower, we will not be able to see the NASA Tower anytime soon. It will most likely be done around 2026. So around then, that is when we will start to see a lot of all these MOU discussions happening, where NASA TTDR will look into bringing all these MNCs into place. At the moment, I can't promise you anything, but we
Mm-hmm.
do know that it will be an interesting place where you're going to have anchor tenants, like for example, Aeons and so on, and giant grocers within Met 3. And if you look at Met 5, we do know that there is Grand Hyatt House 2. So I have mentioned earlier that Grand Hyatt House has seen a huge success in Grand Hyatt House 1 in Mont in Alcoris, and that
Yep.
is why they're actually setting up. And they have agreed, they have already signed a memorandum of understanding that there will be another Grand
Yep.
Hyatt House here, right, under the Hub Sandland development. So that is essentially how what is to expect in that location, right? And
Well, definitely for me, I already very excited to hear all this, especially, we always have this thought in mind, right? Malaysia, we always know how to plan, but we don't know how to execute. Right? So when you touch on like so many of these features, right, I believe there will be a lot of audience who have more questions coming in. Right. So let me just take a pause here. If
okay,
today you find some value so far, right? Either from Paul, from even his preparation of this KL Metropolis, which I myself is the first time seeing this. I also am very shocked that it's so happening, and I can imagine like 5 years down the road, right? Once the building is up, I can foresee here will be like another major hub like TRX, right? The mega city. So if let's say today you have learned something and you have question, right? Feel free to put in the comment. But most importantly, give us a like, okay? Give us a like to Paul, right? Because this is his first time doing a public sharing. So take this opportunity, all right, to get insights from one of the highest transactor, right? When I talk about transaction, is 10 million, right? It's more than 10 million. Imagine that in pandemic time, within a 6 month period, 10 million transaction being conducted. I mean, who else can able to do this, right? I'm not saying that Paul, of course, can answer all your doubts, but I'm sure with his insight as an investor, and also he has did his homework for Mont, I believe he can provide you with much more insight than what you can able to search online. I can guarantee you that. So if you don't want to miss out, again, give us a one if you have learned something today, or give us a like, right, and keep the questions coming in. All right. So I have seen some questions coming in already, but I will keep it for later when during our Q&A section. Okay. So now coming to the second question just now, I will recap a bit. Right. So just now we have answered like Mont is a mature area. So we have also seen there's a lot of testimonial example that you mentioned, the Hyatt, right? They have did very well in Ancoris. And you also mentioned about the existing what we call expatriates when it comes to Mont, which are the hot areas they will settle down. So you have basically touched on that. And I think you touched on very well. But I'm just curious on one thing, which just now you touched on MRT. So again, right, I think MRT is something which is a long-term vision, but how, I would say, how certain you are, or how much information you can able to provide to us for today.
I have actually prepared a bit on the MRT.
Yep.
Essentially, what you should know is that the MRT3 line is proposed, and what you should know is that the MRT3 line was proposed since quite some time ago, and there was a change of government around 2018 or 2019, right? And for a brief period of time, the MRT3 line was scrapped, but and then re-proposed again in 2020 itself. So if you ask me, having it proposed in the first place, scrapped, and re-proposed at the same location, it gives me a very good confidence that there is a true demand for an MRT station, and the government is actually looking at it seriously, because
Yep.
Mont is a very dense location, right? And at
Yep.
the same time, we don't have that kind of public transport convenience, right? It is very jammed, and there has been a lot of demand to the government saying that you ought to look into it. So having it proposed, cancelled because of a lack of budget, then re-propose again as time has improved, it gives me a very good confidence that it will happen, right? So, but of course, with the MRT3 line, it takes time because all this infrastructure is time consuming and resource consuming for the government as well. Yeah.
Yep. So what you are showing us is basically the track, right? Proposed track. So I
Yes.
see like Jalan Duta and Mont Kiara. So among all these stations, right, which
Mhm.
one do you think will be playing a big role, especially once the MRT is complete?
Okay, I feel that there will be two main MRT, right? In okay, Central West is definitely existing. It will definitely be the transit point for MRT3 line. But if we are looking at MRT3 line specifically, I believe that Martret will be very busy, and I believe that Mont Kiara will be very busy. Right, this is where 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻. It is
Mm.
at the borderline of 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻. It is
Yep.
also at where Mont Kiara is very dense. You have Jalan Kiara 3, you have Jalan Kiara 1, right? So that is why I believe that Mont Kiara station will be very busy. As to Martret, it will be very busy for a very different reason. It's not because of residential, but because of the businesses that are happening there. As I've mentioned earlier, you have the Met or Met Ed earlier, as I showed. It will be an office, a grade A corporate offices. Then you have Met 3, which is going to be another landmark building, right? It is 100-story. There will be a lot of MNCs. You can expect there will be a huge demand as well. Then at the same time, we look at MITEC, we look at Martret, we look at MITI. All these will definitely have a lot of government bodies or government officers coming in play, right? And at the same time, you look at just Kuala Lumpur, Mahkamah itself. It is
Yep.
going to have a lot of demand. There will be a lot of people that will transit at Martret, not really for residential purposes, but really for business-related purposes itself, like how KLCC is. Yeah.
Okay, so let me just recap. I think what you mentioned is that basically Martret will be something like you go to KL, right? So KL we also have a lot of station. We have Bukit Bintang station, we have Kampong Baru station, we also have
Yes.
Ampang station. So for you, I mean, basically Martret, what you mean is it's going to be like a KL city station where
Yes.
there will be a lot of business, commuters that will be
Commercials, commercials and officers,
that's
because
actually a great point. That's actually a great point because I think when it comes to property investment, we must know how to differentiate between like places where commercial focus and residential
yeah,
focus, right? So
yeah,
I think what you actually show here is obviously Metropolis will be a commercial hub for sure, right? It's just that the question now is comes back to why Fiddlewoodz, right? I think that's also one of the question that will be asked.
yes. So essentially, if you ask me why Fiddlewoodz, I would say that the Fiddlewoodz is perhaps the only fully residential development within walking distance to the MRT,
Okay.
within walking distance to uh, Met3, which is the lifestyle mall, one of the largest lifestyle mall in this area itself, perhaps even bigger than Publica in the future itself. And it is also within walking distance to the Met, which is Triterra's Grade A corporate offices, also within walking distance to Nazar Tower, right? If you are looking for an investment perspective,
Yep.
it is definitely going to attract all these workers or all these employees that are working in this high profile location. Because to be honest, no one wants to travel that far. And if you can have a residential place that is within walking distance, that would be the best. Why is the Fiddlewoodz better, in my personal opinion, compared to Met 1, Met 2, which is they do have residential? Why is it better than Hubs and Lands development? Although they have residential, it is because all these other developments are mixed developments, right? Of course, some will argue that Arte is also residential, but if you look at Arte's design, I don't have the feel that it is designed for family living. It doesn't seem to me that it is designed for longer term tenancy. It is more for a short term getaway to really have a weekend away. That is how I feel about Arte. And that's why I do not really look at it as something that people will want to stay for a longer term and have the comfort of safety, right? And that is why the Fiddlewoodz, if you ask me, shines in that place. It is fully
Okay.
residential, no commercial.
I
Once you
think
go home, it's
yeah.
personal. Yeah.
I think what you have shared pretty much like most of my main point lah, because I can't wait to hear to see about the concept behind Fiddlewoodz, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I I think please just show it, and then I think
Okay.
now is the time.
Yeah. Uh, a little bit of quick fact is on a 1.81 land. The thing that I like about the Fiddlewoodz is the facilities. It is designed to really capture international perspective into one particular development. So if you go through their brochure, they tell you that travel the world within the Fiddlewoodz. Essentially, when you go home, you're already going home to a vibrant culture of different facilities. So just to help you understand a little bit more on the facilities, we have four levels of key resort facilities. Level 8 is what you have the bonfire deck, which I'll show you later on. 51 is what I call the sky garden. So it's a sky outdoor, you have the gardens and everything. 52 is
Wow.
the indoor lounge, right?
Yeah.
So I know there's a lot of people who like to go up in the sky, have their dine there.
You mean
That's the
literally
best
in the sky? Sorry,
to
like
dine out in the sky.
you mean
I
like
personally do not like it because I'm fearful of
oh,
height. But
I see. Okay, so you have that in the condo now.
yes,
Okay.
and actually, I would say that most of the new condos today, they actually cater to a lot of lounge
Mhm.
or dine-in lounge
Yep.
in the
Yep.
sky. The
Agree.
uniqueness about the Fiddlewoodz is the design, the theme is different. You have a few themes to choose from. It's not a fixed pattern compared to a lot of other developments, right? And one of the key highlight to the place is you have a 360-degree sky pool or a Santorini theme sky pool. I will tell you that it is actually the first in the Asian world to have a 360-degree Santorini sky pool, right? You don't have that in any other developments in Asia, right? So just to show you a little bit on the illustration, you can tell that the lounge is very different from a lot of other development. Here, I would say that it is actually capturing an international airport's feeling, right? And at the same time, we mentioned about the dine-in lounge, the Sky Dine-in Lounge. You have the Moroccan theme, very different, very unique. It's a bit more of a salad dining, if you ask me, right? Then, if you are not so much of a dining person, but more on a water person, you have both the outdoor sky pool, which I mentioned earlier, level 53, Santorini theme. So you can see that a lot of all these chalets are themed after the Santorini designs. Or
Yep.
if you prefer indoor, you have the Japanese theme thermal bath, or you have the Korean theme thermal bath,
Is it
right?
like onsen spa?
Yes, I would say that it's quite similar to onsen spa. There's a lot of onsen spa inspiration into this facility itself. So if you ask me, it actually caters a lot to the different demographic within Mont itself, right? Which I
Okay.
will go back to it later on.
Okay.
If you're not into water but more onto nature, you have level 8, which is the bonfire deck. It is actually themed after the Japanese sakura blossom period.
Yep.
So it is going to be very beautiful. You're staying around here. Essentially, your balcony is on looking towards the tree, the flowers. It's going to be very nice, if you ask me.
Okay.
And Sky Garden wise, you have the Aura Garden and
Yeah.
also the chillax area, which I call the Barber House. Right. So
Wow.
these are some of the interesting facilities that they have captured into place, and I would really say kudos to the architecture team because they don't just look at the Fiddlewoodz as a development. They actually look at the location. They look at the inspiration that NASA TTDI has for KL Metropolis. So NASA TTDI says that I want to make this into an international business hub, right? I want it to be a business hub to cater to the expatriates, right? And the team here in Exsim, the architecture team, has said that let's take that a notch, right? Let's take that concept and bring it into the residential place. So
Oh.
after work, they can come back and still feel at home. when I say feel at home, it's not just feeling at home in Malaysia, but really feel at home back at where they would be in their hometown, right? That's why you have a lot of different international inspiration captured into the Fiddlewoodz.
That's
And
actually a very good point here because I think a lot of people, in fact, I can see the questions coming in about they wanting to see the layout already. So I think I think we let's I think after you have shared like the facilities and all, right, I can say that so far it's very impressive, especially the sky pool. I've never seen a 360-degree sky pool before. Yeah. So we
well,
have
you
one
will see it
question here.
soon in 2025.
Yeah. So I have one question here coming in from investor, and I think
Mhm.
that here he's asking like, after seeing the facility, after knowing the location, and talking about the concept wise, what will be, I would say, for this investor, he's asking particularly what will be the best layout for high rental yield. Okay.
Okay. What would be the best layout for higher rental yield? Essentially, typically you will look at a rental yield from a development perspective, right? And if you ask me, typically you have the smaller units would have had a better rental yield, but at the same time, if you look at price per square feet, the smaller units are also slightly marginally higher compared to the bigger units. So if you ask me personally, it's not so much on the rental yield based on the different unit sizes, but you should really be asking what kind of tenants you want to target with this investment itself.
Good
Right.
point.
Some people like to target the family business, the expatriate family. I see a lot of pro towards the expatriate family because if you are able to bring in a good French family or maybe a good Japanese family and they really love the place, they're going to stay there for a very long time, right? And when we talk about rental yield itself, uh, essentially what you want is you want to have a good rental rate, but at the same time, you do not want to be changing tenants every year.
Yep.
If you go for the smaller units, then you are essentially catering to the younger couples, right? And once they get married and they have kids, perhaps a two-bedder would not be enough, right? And they will start looking out for bigger units. So you should really be asking what kind of tenants that you want to cater to. So I hope that answers the question of which rental unit or which
Okay.
layout would be better.
I can see that you have did some analysis on some of the layout. So perhaps I think I think we can start revealing which layout is suitable for which market.
Okay, um, I will start from type A, type B, and type C. Essentially, what you should know is type A is the smallest, type C is the biggest. That is how I would say it. Type E is a two-room or two-bedder unit, and I would say that type A essentially is more suitable for young couples or really, really young family or just started out families who is going to stay here for the first 2 to 3 years, right? Uh, Young newlyweds, right? Um, what I like about this particular layout from the Fiddlewoodz is they have actually taken a 900 square feet and they've made it into a two-room unit. If you compare to a lot of other developments out there in PJ itself, typically what you see with a 900 square feet unit, it will be a three bedder, right? A
Mm.
three-bedroom unit. So you are for the Fiddlewoodz, you are essentially enjoying a special space on the middle room, right? You have a lot more space now. You have a lot more walking pathway, and at the same time, the living room now is a lot more extended compared to a lot of other developments within the unit. And because the living room is extended, you have extended balcony, right? Which I will show you here. You have a bigger balcony. A lot of other developments has a smaller balcony, right?
Wow.
And this actually goes to the view, right? Typically, when I talk to my buyers or my friends, if you are considering for the type A, you really want to capture on the Sakura Garden view. You do not want to go too high level. You want to go for the lower level to capture that view, open up the balcony, and just enjoy the breeze and the free oxygen that you're going to get from the garden itself. So that is how I feel about type A. Type B is a three-bedder. Personally, I would personally recommend for the Type C over the Type B. The reason is because Type B, yes, it's good, but the delta between Type B and Type C, when I say delta, the difference in cost is actually quite minimal, but the impact, right? When you go and walk into the showroom, you'll feel the difference in the layout. You'll feel the difference in the design. Type
Yeah.
C is a lot more comfortable for a family unit, right? Type B is good for a family unit, but at the same time, it is cheaper compared to the Type C. So a lot of people will take that cheaper unit and make it into an investment unit. Uh, if you ask me, the uniqueness about Type B is the hackable wall, right? And I have known a lot of customers that really do not need too many rooms. They
Yeah.
only need two huge rooms. And here you can convert a three-bedder into a two luxurious master bedroom. Hack off this wall, introduce an entrance here, seal up this door, and you have another master bedroom because you have a suite bathroom here, right? And at the same time, the living room is great. I would say that it is not the biggest for a family unit, but it is just nice, just sufficient for the design itself, right? And for those of you that want to have a look at the showroom, I can prepare you in advance that this partition wall here for the kitchen is not a partition wall, right?
Yeah.
What I like about this unit as well is that they have a glass panel here, which once you walk in the entrance, the main entrance, when you look at the living room, you have a
Yep.
clear view of the kitchen. And the use of glass panel is very well done by the architecture team. It gives you a bigger sense of the space and really open up the space from an audio visual perspective. Yeah. So that's on the type B. Uh, type C is what I would say just great, just nice for a bigger size family, right? What you want to do here, oh, sorry, this is type B. Type C, uh, I would say would be the sweet spot when it comes to family. I'm not trying to upsell you, but this is really how I feel about it. There's a few things that I really like about it.
Mhm.
First, you have this two hackable wall. So by default, they have designed it as a study area. But for those of you that really like a walk-in cabinet or walk-in wardrobe after you shower, you can essentially make this whole area into a walk-in wardrobe.
Mhm.
Uh, for those of you who wants to make it into a utility room, you can introduce it into a utility room. A lot of other units don't have, a lot of newer units don't have utility rooms. The next thing that I really like it is the separation between the dry kitchen and the wet kitchen, right? This island itself creates, I would say, the centerpiece of the kitchen, right? It is the place where people can have a drink together. You can have your meals together. Some families do not like to have their meals in front of the TV, so you can really have your meals here. And at the same time, it is also isolated from the heavy cooking, right? And it opens up this whole space as an open concept, right? So if you compare to the previous unit, although previous layout, although we are using glass, it gives you a visual perspective on an open layout. But this is truly an open layout for the living room itself. So there's a bit of continuity from the kitchen into the living room, into the dining area as
And this
well.
is overlooking to my tech, right?
Yes, this is
Wow.
overlooking to my tech. And
Beautiful.
that brings me to my next point, why I would typically recommend type C, right? So I will just quickly go through into my recommendation based on
Yep.
type A, B, and C. Type A, very straightforward. I would typically recommend for the lower unit to go for the garden view. If you go for the high units, very honestly, I don't think there'll be a lot of great views because there'll be development in front of it. For type B, typically I recommend to my buyers that you go for number 6 and number 7, right? I know there are quite a bit of property agents out there that would recommend number 1. I'm not going to say that they are wrong. I'm just going to have my own perspective on things.
Yeah.
Beside you, you have Hubs and Land, which is going to be massive development. If I'm not mistaken, it is 5 blocks of development. Once that is up, you will have half of your view gone, right? So right now they are focused on the KL skyline view. Half of that will be gone because of Hubs and Land. The next thing you need to remember is Mat 3. You are going to have NASA Tower coming out. It is a
Mm.
100-story building. It is going to be higher than your 53 level of development. If you
So,
ask me from my engineering perspective, the probability of getting a good skyline view is going to be almost zero, right? So if my customer asks me, I will give them a very honest opinion. I'll say that, number one, now if you look at it, you have the KL skyline, but in
yep.
the future, probability of it is quite slim, right? Especially when it's about 2028, 2029 when the development is done. So if you're going for type B, go for number 6 and number 7. Now, Type C has a lot more flexibility when it comes to view, right? There's a lot more units to choose from. And if you ask me, is MeTech a good landscape, a good landmark? I would say that it is actually quite beautiful. I am taking an evening view for you to understand. So this is what you are going to expect if you are going for around level 30, level 40 view. You don't want to be exactly in front of it because you don't get to enjoy that perspective. But a bit higher of a level, you get to enjoy a grander perspective of MeTech, especially at night when it's brightly lit up. And the good thing about these units number 2 and number 3 is that you are able to have a bit of the KL skyline, right? Because of angle perspective itself, perhaps you might be able to enjoy one of the tower out of the 4 main KL
Mm.
tower itself. So this is my typical recommendation based on my own analysis of the place itself. Yeah.
Wow, I think you have shared like a very thorough analysis here, and I can definitely see like what is the direction that you're going to propose. Like basically, what you say is that in a KL city hub, right? Don't expect that you can still get a unblock view, especially in a major development like this. So I think to
Yes.
conclude, right? So what you are proposing here is that any unit lah. Of course, here just now we have mentioned the Sakura Garden. I think if you prefer a view that's not blocked, you have some cooling air, you have some view, right? What you are suggesting is basically for unit 6 and 7, so far will give the best unblocked view. But let's say
Yes.
if you prefer night view with the city lights and the metropolis going to be alive, right? I think unit 2 to 5 will definitely give you a more advantage in terms of having that city view at night, right?
Yep. Yep. And the good thing about this view is that MeTech is already there.
Yep.
Martrade is already there. Meeting is already there. We don't see all these buildings disappear overnight. So what it means is that there's not going to be much future development in that area. So you can be quite certain that whatever you see now is what you're going to see as well in the future when the
Okay.
project is done. Yeah,
All right. So there's a question coming in because due to time purpose, we're
sure.
gonna keep this short and sweet. So one of the buyers basically asked, like, I'm concerned on the competition in this area. So basically, I think what she means is that after we have go through the location, the project, the concept, and the layout, so now comes to the final part, which is what will be your opinion on this project for those who are concerned about competition?
Okay. Uh, with regards to competition, right, there are two prongs that you want to really look at. First is in terms of supply. Second is in terms of pricing, right? If you ask me, with the future development that we can expect in KL Metropolis, um, out of that 65.5 acres of development, if you ask me, only about 20 to 30% is catered for residential. So
Yep.
essentially, you are competing against the older units. And we all know that tenants, right, or potential customers typically would like to go for newer units, especially for the newer projects, because the furniture is new, the plumbing system is new, the problems to stay in those places is also less, right? So that is in terms of supply. And in terms of the second concern on competition is on pricing, right? Despite all the good, I would say the good investment checkers, right? So I call all these things investment checker, good location, good concept, synergy and everything. Surprisingly, the Fiddlewoodz is not expensive compared to a lot of other projects.
Wow.
If you compare to if you compare to surrounding ongoing projects, like for example Met 1, Met 2, compare it against Agile, compare it against DK's development, which is the immersion right in front of Publica, you'll be surprised that the Fiddlewoodz is actually about 10 to 15% lower than all these new and upcoming
Do you
projects,
have the
right?
data to show us?
Because I did not include it here, but I can tell you that it's about 10 to 15%.
Yeah.
Uh,
So for
yeah.
those who want to know more of this inside information, remember to click the link that we have attached, right? So you can actually get in touch with Paul directly, right, to get more insights on Metropolis. So if you like what he said so far, right, I think pretty much today he has summarized for us very nicely. And one thing that he mentioned lastly, which just now catches my attention, is that he feels Fiddlewoodz is not the most expensive. And I think when it comes to investment, a lot of people are curious about this. So based on your opinion, right, what will be the, maybe you can give a summary, like what will be the
Okay.
selling point, I mean the summary for those investors?
Okay, let me just go through a little bit on my personal checker so that you can understand my thought process. We've gone through location.
Yeah,
Mont is a very mature, very well-known location.
yeah,
Surrounding as well, very mature and well-known. But at the same time, developing and growing because of KL Metropolis.
yes,
Accessibility to surrounding townships. Yes, you have it. You have MRT3. You have good infrastructure, existing infrastructure that really helps you connect to the surrounding metro township. And if you ask me, the township failure and success depends on the surrounding townships. Shah Alam is outskirts. There is no surrounding township to that really helps Shah Alam grow. That's why for the past 10 years, I would say that Shah Alam has suffered quite a bit. Compared to Desa Park City, why is Desa Park City so successful? Because it is surrounded by very mature township, like for example, Kepong, right? So this in itself gives us very good comfort, right? Uniqueness about the development, we talk about it, the synergy between Fiddlewoodz and the township. In terms of pricing, it is a good 10 to 15% lower than new projects. But one thing you want to take note as well is that compared to existing developments, we are talking about sub-sales unit. We talk about our quarries. Now it is going for about 800 to 900 per square feet, roughly. We talk about Publica per square feet is about 780 to 850 per square feet. If you consider as well the closing cost, which adds a 5% on top of that, and if you consider as well the renovation cost that you are going to put into it to really revamp the place, if you ask me, that is in fact equivalent or
yeah,
slightly higher than the purchase price of the Fiddlewoodz at the moment. So if you ask me, it just makes sense to invest into this, especially for investors who want to stretch their money, that do
yeah.
not want to put in a huge investment now, but really want to buy into the future of the location
Yeah.
because the development will be done in 2025. Yeah.
I do
Um,
agree with you lah. On basically, I think buyers have really to balance out between saving on price versus the cost you have to put in to acquire the price lah. So what you basically mentioned is that if today, just because you want to save 20%, but end up you need to fork out 20% more, actually it's better that you just go for the new project like Fiddlewoodz, which is priced as according to market. At the same time, you are getting like more value in terms of furnishing. It's a
yes.
brand new unit. So that
Yes.
is, I would say, one of the main point here.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So last but not least, I think here there's another two more question which I'm going to bring up.
Sure.
One of it is basically from our buyers is that talking about your expertise, which you have called yourself, I would say you also are specialized like in giving advice on property insights. So if today, right, you want to know more about Paul and looking at his presentation, I can say that he is very analytical. He also do a lot of background study about any property that he buy. And for information, Paul also had the highest transactor in the whole Dutamas, I would say for the past 6 months. 10 million, yeah. All right. I don't think that's a small amount. So if you want to know more about how he actually analyzed, you can follow his page for this biggerestates.com. You can always go to his blog, and within his blog, right, Paul, maybe you can share a bit more before we touch on the last two questions about your blog. What will be
Okay.
inside?
Essentially, bigger estates is my effort to help my friends and young investors who are looking to get your feet wet in the real estate investment field, right? There is quite a bit of information out there about investing, about buying home, but I feel that there is a lacking on personality. There's a lacking on personal opinion when it comes to investment. So this is my attempt to really help the community in that perspective.
And there's one question that I think will be your specialist lah. And for this, basically the viewer asked like, what's your advice if this is his first property and he's considering to entering at this price range, which I believe will be like close to 1 million, right?
Yes. Okay, the Fiddlewoodz is not for everyone. That is what you need to understand, right? But beyond buying property for investment, you should really be looking at your financial capability. Instead of trying to go into the hype, you want to understand how much you can stretch and live comfortably, and also plan ahead for a financial crisis like what we are going through at the moment. I'll be very honest with you, buying a Type A is equivalent to about 2009 per month to mortgage loan, right? If you are already living on a strike belt, on a very tight belt with your salary, you cannot afford a 2009 mortgage every month. This might not be for you, but if you are confident enough that you are able to turn this around into a rental unit, right, to get your tenants to cover it for you, then perhaps it is worth taking the risk. But ultimately, it depends on your risk appetite and your financial capability as well.
So what you are suggesting here is for those I mean, of course, at the end, it still fall back to the numbers lah. But if let's say, coming as a first-time buyer without taking too much risk, so what you are proposing is that Type A will give them, in terms of yield, will be, I would say, can able to cover lah, right? So basically, that's the end goal here, right?
In terms of yield, I'm seeing that the rental will be slightly higher than the mortgage, right? This is from my own
How
understanding.
much you are talking about? Just for no.
We are talking about within the range of 3 ringgit to about 3.5. This is what I would say the median. Of course, the Mont range is about 250 to 4 in terms of rental. This is ringgit per square feet per month, right? What I'm seeing is about 3 ringgit to 3.5. You will be somewhere around the mortgage, slightly higher than the mortgage, depending on the competition that you're looking at. So, yeah. At the end of the day, upon completion, it depends on how good you are at someone getting it rented out.
Yeah, for sure. I think you have basically give our audience a very good idea on who are the target market just now when come to the location. So just to cap it off, I think based on the rental yield, right, of 3 to 3.5, I can say 889 square feet will give you an average of about 3,000 to about 3,002. Right. So given that, I think that will answer that question that whether is it suitable for you. If you think that A can able to cover and you feel 2009 is you have enough backup fund, so I think Type A will give, I would say, one of the top picks. Right. And last but not least, and this question is coming in from Melissa. Paul, how do you answer this comparing to existing sub-sales in Mont Kiara? I think Paul has just answered that just now on the cost. Yeah.
Yep. So, if you ask me,
before we call it a session.
Sorry, come again.
Anything you want to add on before we call it a session for today?
I just want to thank you for the opportunity, and I hope that you guys have benefited a bit from my own insight. So, yep, that is all from me.
Okay, so let's say if today you have learned something and you want to get more insight from Paul. Of course, today we can't go on for 2 to 3 hours. If can, I think Paul can be is more than happy to give you a personal consultation for more than 1 hour right? So again, if you don't want to miss out on any deals, or if you are seriously considering on Mont Kiara, be it today is Fiddlewoodz or other project, I think you can always refer back to someone who is in the field, right? Who's already did his study for a few years and also conducted more than 10 million transactions and consultations to his buyers. So if you don't want to miss out on anything, like I said, remember to share this video out also. If you have buyers or you have friends who are looking for investment, and I think today we have found a very good deal here, which I believe, for those who want to cover your installment some more in Mont Kiara, freehold title with Sky Pool, I think Paul have already shared some of the key points here. Alright, so if you don't want to miss out on any information, please follow Paul at the WhatsApp link that I've just posted, and you can always like and follow our page at house.com. If you don't want to miss out on his personal blog, you can always follow him on paulbakerestate.com, which I have already posted on the on the screen below. So make sure that you don't miss out. So if you like what you have seen today, give us a thumbs up, share it, and hope to see you on our next session of You Ask, We Answer. Right. So we're gonna give thanks to Paul, and good night, everyone. Take care.